Today, we are witnessing not just any story, but the awakening of an ancient prophecy. The chosen one, the staff of Moses, is still waiting for you. That mighty relic, the symbol of miracles and transformation, now seeks your hand. That divine power, which for years has only been described in legends, is about to come to life again in your presence. Now old chains are breaking, barriers are breaking like waters, and the course of history is being rewritten. Your destiny is to carry the legacy of the hands that changed the destiny of a great nation. Remember, that staff is only the beginning of miracles. Now the time has come. As you walk, all paths will open before you. Write in the comments 333 because now you are a living sign of divine power. What looked like a simple story of ridicule has unraveled into a cautionary tale that left even the most confident adversaries bewildered. Once they drew pleasure from your struggles, but now their own stability is slipping as the very truths you exposed become the chains that bind them. There is panic in places where laughter once echoed, and those who thought they could predict your downfall are now gripped by a fear they never anticipated. Plots were hatched by individuals convinced that nothing could stand against their united front. They joined forces with the illusion of invulnerability, pooling their energy to try to extinguish a flame placed far beyond their reach. At the core of their schemes was a figure skilled in the art of manipulation, a shadowy presence who had built a legacy of control through guilt and subtle coercion, weaving dysfunction through generations like a tangled vine, choking out new growth. Yet for all their preparation, the truth was simple. Your spirit came forged from something they could never poison. Allies were repurposed into antagonists, their goodwill eroded by a gradual seep of negativity and old wounds. Someone once trusted became a messenger of harm. Their actions guided not by their own intent, but by the influence of a hidden manipulator who pulled every string. The enabler was surrounded by supporters who preferred to echo the prevailing opinion rather than challenge it. People content to stay on the side of the majority, no matter how unjust, providing cover for plans they never truly understood. The real battle was for your perception, as they attempted to wrap your mind in fog. Their tactics were sly, using subtle accusations and twisted narratives to make you doubt your own intuition. It was a campaign built on psychological sleight of hand, intended to isolate you, to convince you that your clarity was nothing but confusion. Their approach was layered, with every comment and gesture meant to reinforce their invented reality. Still, you observed it all, every forced laugh, every shared look, every coordinated action. Their efforts went far beyond mere gossip or social plotting. It became a barrage on multiple fronts, rituals whispered in secret, intentions sent out under veiled darkness, attempts to attach obstacles to your every step. When you felt watched, it wasn't imagination. Eyes, both seen and unseen, monitored your growth, waiting for a moment of weakness that never came. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Rituals and sacrifices became their rhythm, cycles that mirrored lunar patterns and tried to twist modern tools into sources of harm. They turned digital forums into spaces where negativity could multiply, convinced that more numbers would make them unstoppable. Yet their greatest miscalculation was spiritual. They imagined that darkness could snuff out light, if only they gathered enough shadows, but they failed to see that the spark within you was fueled by a source they could never access. Like a stone dropped in still water, every intention and action eventually returns to its source, only with greater momentum and force. The energy they unleashed traveled a perfect circuit, circling back and hitting with the velocity of a celestial slingshot. Their ritual games, shrouded in darkness and delusion, never stood a chance against a current powered by a source that cannot be imitated or bought. When you align with the origin of all power, no cheap magic or rehearsed incantation can breach that barrier. Their efforts became an unintentional comedy in the eyes of the divine, their secret gatherings powerless in the presence of real authority. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Amidst the storm of attacks, something extraordinary was awakening in your awareness. The fog lifted from your inner vision, sharpening every detail, stripping the camouflage from their strategies. Events that looked disconnected to outsiders came together as one tightly woven tapestry of intention. With every day, the hidden threads of their actions became visible to you. You noticed the timing, the coordinated scripts, the peculiar familiarity with your private moments, and realized these patterns were not random. One by one, their schemes and half-truths became as obvious to you as writing on a billboard. Every narrative twist, every sly manipulation, every attempt to reconstruct reality around their agenda stood exposed. Instead of confusion, you received direct downloads, blueprints of how this saga would unfold, including the specific consequences that awaited every player. The universe itself seemed to orchestrate a chain of events designed to reveal all things in their proper time. This awakening, this calling into a higher clarity, wasn't just happenstance. It was a sign that those called together in such moments form a bond that makes hidden powers nervous. Those who manipulate timelines and distort outcomes recognize what can happen when awakened souls converge. The real question isn't whether you fit into this circle. It's whether you'll allow the old system to hold back the destiny that's already written for you. Among those drawn together are ones who stand as defenders of the emerging order, offering support, training, and insight. The invitation is open to participate, to strengthen the movement, but never at the expense of compassion for those on the edge. There's always a hand extended, whether you choose to give or receive. The door opens both ways, allowing real connection and mutual response. Your true path is already unfolding. It just takes one step to move from old cycles into a new script. Those working against you tried to create storms, crisis after crisis, drama layered upon drama, just to drain your strength and focus. They fed off the chaos, finding satisfaction in your hardship. The suffering they hoped would break you instead revealed the depth of their own emptiness. Where you saw a trial, they saw an ending, mistaking your struggle for a defeat. Their mistake was assuming pain equaled destruction, never understanding that the crucible refines rather than shatters the chosen. What was dismissed as your collapse was actually the universe clearing your field, making room for a harvest beyond what your old environment could support. As they celebrated what they thought was your isolation, the ground was being prepared for true connection. Their inability to recognize authentic spiritual power kept them blind to the very force shaping your story. In their eyes, your empathy looked like frailty, your patience seemed like surrender, and your forgiveness registered as submission. But they had never seen the strength that comes from a well too deep to be measured by shallow minds. When truth poured from your spirit, it tore through their smoke screens like a bolt of lightning splitting the night sky, leaving nowhere left to hide. Complex webs of deception, spun over years, unraveled in moments, their threads dissolving the instant you honored your own authenticity over their image. The courage to break your silence didn't just disrupt their schemes, it set off a chain reaction of revelation, as if hidden doors burst open and secrets tumbled out, powerless to resist divine gravity. With every truth spoken at the right moment, destiny itself seemed to orchestrate events for the highest exposure, waiting until all eyes were ready to see. The alignment of revelation was flawless. Not too soon for hearts still closed, not too late for justice to mean anything. Once your words, backed by something far greater than your own will, were set loose, the outcome was irreversible. The very atmosphere shifted, as if an invisible hand pressed down and declared enough. Even those who dismissed spiritual matters couldn't escape the sudden intensity. It was as though the architect of reality leaned in and declared a personal verdict on your behalf. What should have unfolded over years was compacted into weeks, every action collecting interest and returning with exponential speed. Layers of protection closed around you, unseen but unbreakable, and new guardians took up their posts, beings of power whose only assignment was to ensure that no threat found its mark. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. Justice convened, not in any earthly court, but at the seat of the highest law, where the scales are unbribable and the verdicts eternal. Every act of aggression against you was weighed and measured, and the conclusion was absolute. Their offenses were not just against you, but against the very principle of divine order. The system of consequence kicked in with relentless efficiency. Harm sent your way found a mirror, reflecting amplified hardship back to its source. Their attempts to ensnare you became the net that trapped themselves, while every stone thrown became a stepping stone beneath your feet. What they meant for harm transformed into layers of spiritual armor that no darkness could breach. The final judgment could not be overturned or negotiated. The threshold was crossed and could never be uncrossed. The fallout was immediate. Confusion seized their ranks, nerves shattered, and alliances dissolved into accusation and suspicion. Where there once had been conspiratorial whispers and secret pacts, there was now only distrust and disorder. The more they scrambled to preserve their image, the quicker their facades crumbled. Their fortunes dried up, problems multiplied, and the energy they once wielded over others scattered like chaff in a strong wind. Their bodies bore the story too. Tension knotted muscles, illness appeared where none had been, and no expert could explain the cascade of physical distress that became their daily experience. Reputation collapsed, not through outside sabotage, but because their own choices finally shone in the daylight they had so long avoided. Friends and allies vanished, leaving only the harsh glare of exposure. Where support had once surrounded them, only emptiness remained, and the lesson became unmistakable. The force they tried to crush came back around, remade, multiplied, and untouchable. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. All at once, the truth they had ignored became impossible to escape. The strength they thought would collapse beneath the weight of their attacks revealed itself to be forged in a fire they could not comprehend. While they scrambled to fix the disaster they unleashed, the ground kept shifting beneath them. No advice, ritual, or scheme could explain how someone they counted out could rise above every scheme and setback, outlasting them at every turn. Accusations replaced alliances. Old friendships dissolved in a storm of suspicion as each blamed the next for the collapse that was swallowing them whole. The hollowness at the heart of their so-called faith was finally laid bare. All the ritual, posturing, and false sanctity meant nothing when real trouble arrived. They were left standing alone, armorless, empty, and exposed. A gnawing sense of regret crept in, heavier each day, as the enormity of what they'd done settled on their hearts. The fabric of their unity unraveled, tangled up in their own confusion. No one could finish a sentence or keep a promise. Plans fell apart in their hands. The very confusion they tried to sow in your life became the soundtrack of their days, each new misstep a mirror of what they once celebrated happening to you. One by one, every blow they'd tried to land on you circled back in magnified form. Loneliness, fear, and anxiety stalked their steps, each one a shadow of the isolation they'd wished on your spirit. Financial troubles, once designed to keep you struggling, appeared in their bank accounts, eating away at whatever peace remained. Reputations crumbled under the glare of public embarrassment. Secrets spilled that they never thought would see daylight. Their whispered mockery became the spectacle, their laughter silenced in the face of their own unraveling. It's a lot like the changing of the seasons, when winter overstays its welcome and the cold, bitter wind seems like it'll never loosen its grip, but underneath, the soil is quietly preparing for spring. All along, while those who wronged you were busy counting their gains and mocking your journey, a deeper truth was working itself out, just waiting for its time to bloom. The bill always comes due, just like the frost must finally yield to the sun. Universal justice is as certain as the sunrise. Debts can't be dodged or hidden in the shadow, and the currency for balance is humility, real change, and sometimes years of honest work. The scoreboard of the soul is never erased with a quick apology or shallow regret. The damage they caused couldn't be brushed under the rug or repainted with new intentions. Some debts run so deep they require more than a single lifetime to make things right. So, as those who orchestrated confusion and chaos found their world spinning out of control, no quick fix, no shortcut, the true cost of their actions came calling. Like a tree that's been poisoned at the root, their outward show of strength couldn't save them from the rot that crept upward, visible for all to see. But while the storm raged on their side, something incredible was taking shape in you. It's like a diamond forming beneath the surface, hidden from view while pressure and time do their work. In your lowest moments, when it seemed you were alone, when laughter echoed and doubt swirled, you were being shaped, not shattered. The pain you carried became the pressure that formed the jewel of your wisdom, clarity, and strength. And as that diamond surfaced, the world took notice. People who once laughed behind your back, who ridiculed your vision or dismissed your calling, found themselves lost in the aftermath of their choices, when their laughter turned to silence and the easy certainty in their eyes faded into confusion. Their pride began to break. As their own battles multiplied, they couldn't help but remember the one they scorned, the one who stood, quietly resilient through every storm. It's like folks who once mocked Noah for building his ark in the middle of a drought, but came running for shelter when the rain finally began to fall. Those who rejected your insight, scoffed at your intuition, or denied your spiritual sight, now began to search for answers in the very place they had ignored. The same mouths that once spoke words to wound were humbled, some even seeking you out for guidance, hungry for the wisdom they once scorned. The tide had turned, and with it, so did the hearts of those who never understood the assignment you carried. Their apologies were genuine, born of the hard lessons the universe delivered, not just empty words. In the midst of all this, your presence became a place of safety, a beacon in the fog for souls searching for direction. Just as a lighthouse stands unwavering while the storm tosses ships at sea, your hard-won peace became a light drawing others home. People who had once turned their backs circled around you, now seeking shelter in your wisdom, asking for blessing and covering they never thought they'd need. There's a beautiful irony to this. The very ones who once laughed at your ark are now hoping you'll make room for them inside. But your transformation runs even deeper than forgiveness or vindication. What happened to you was never just about settling the score or proving a point. It was about revealing your true nature under pressure. You became the proof that when tested, your spirit wasn't just preserved, it was multiplied. The soil of your soul, once trampled, became fertile ground for miracles to take root. You grew in compassion, discernment, and quiet authority that doesn't need to shout to be felt. Like an oak tree that stands tall even after the worst storms, your evidence that what was meant for harm became the stage for an even greater testimony. Every person who came to you in humility was met not with arrogance, but with a gentle strength that only those who have truly suffered can offer. Your words had weight, not because you'd won an argument, but because you'd walked through fire and emerged with something golden on the other side. Your presence alone carried a healing energy, like fresh rain on thirsty ground, that made people want to linger, to listen, to heal. This is the legacy of a chosen one, not to hold grudges or demand groveling apologies, but to live as a witness of what love and perseverance can do in the hands of the divine. When the scales finally balance and the bill is paid, not just in words, but in changed hearts and transformed lives, you get to see with your own eyes that the promises were true all along. Those who once doubted become living proof themselves of the turnaround power of grace. You now stand in a field blooming with second chances, where even your old adversaries can find room to be made new, if they're willing. You have become, in the language of miracles, the living bridge from despair to hope, from loss to restoration. And just like springtime always follows the longest winter, your testimony will bring warmth, color, and promise to every soul still braving the cold, wondering if the sun will ever shine again. Because of what you've walked through, you now walk in the kind of authority that can't be manufactured or bought. It's the quiet dignity of someone who survived both wilderness and wasteland, who knows the value of humility and the pricelessness of real change. You're not just a survivor, you are a restorer, a rebuilder, a voice for those still learning to sing after seasons of silence. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially, far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord guide your path. So, as the world comes full circle, and those who once dismissed you return, seeking your wisdom, your blessing, your shelter, know that the story was never about revenge. It was about the making of a leader, the anointing of a healer, the unveiling of a soul, chosen not because of ease, but because you could carry the weight of glory and grace through it all. And that, beloved, is a harvest worth every single tear you ever cried in the dark. A new level of recognition unfolded around you. The evidence of your insight, your ability to see beyond the surface, could no longer be denied. It was as if a spotlight shone on you. Every prediction that came true, every word that found its mark. Opportunities, once blocked, now poured in. Resources, once withheld, flowed with a sense of divine timing that no adversary could stop. People were drawn to the light that could not be extinguished. What had been lost was now restored and multiplied. Every lack reversed by an unseen hand working in your favor. Through it all, a deeper peace took root. Joy returned, not because the world had been easy, but because you had become unshakable. Compassion for those who harmed you remained intact, proof of your connection to something greater. Triumph was not just survival, but a testimony, a marker in the spiritual landscape that you were always meant for this, that no weapon aimed your way could ever prosper for long. The crown of your calling shone brighter than any trial you endured, declaring to the world that destiny will always have the final say. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. What started as a private overcoming became the spark for a wider movement, shifting not only your path, but igniting a firestorm across unseen realms. The breakthrough that looked personal in nature actually rang out like a bell through dimensions, creating ripple effects that extended to every awakened soul. As the barriers fell for you, spiritual doors swung open for others who had felt hemmed in by the same battles. Your deliverance was like the rising tide, lifting every vessel anchored in hope, transforming what once seemed like a solitary struggle into a chorus of emerging victors. Each triumph was echoed by a wave of breakthroughs among countless others who'd been fighting their own invisible wars. A massive wave of spiritual advancement surged forward, washing away outdated systems rooted in deceit and oppression. Structures built on hidden motives and silent suffering began to fall apart, making room for new bonds founded in honesty, compassion, and a higher order of justice. It was as if an entire garden had been weeded in a single season, exposing what was true and uprooting what had merely pretended to belong. The spiritual network reconfigured itself. Authentic connections flourished while imposters faded into the background. For the first time, soul family gathered, not because of shared wounds, but because of genuine resonance and aligned vision. The upheaval went even deeper, reaching back through generations. The chains that once held families in repeating cycles were broken by a victory so complete that old stories lost their power. The old shadows that had passed from parent to child dissolved, and wounds that had echoed for lifetimes finally met their match. Where ancestral patterns had set limits, now liberation took root. The victory wasn't just for one life. It became a turning point, setting a new pattern for all who would come after. This was not just a change. It was a reset at the deepest level, a healing so thorough that the pain of the past became the soil for new dreams to blossom.